Okay. Still on the road. I got another hour drive via Route 66 in Arizona on my way back to New Hampshire. And I got all my radio and everything off, and I'm just in my head thinking about stuff, thinking about the world. This is going to be a little bit more philosophy based here. Some social pattern recognition, but I'm not sure if these videos ever released or if I just need to get these out of my head and say them, speak them out. I was originally just taking videos of what was going on, kind of taking a video journal of my trip cross country from New Hampshire to Utah to Vegas and back. But now I've really decided on this trip, after speaking to some people in the West and meeting people and being myself, it's like so many places I go, people say, you should write this down, or you should do a podcast about this. And it's like, yeah, I should. You can not believe in God, or you can believe in God, or you can think that the universe is connected in some way or not. But like, sometimes maybe it is like, the simulation speaking to you from other people. But anyways, if I do release these videos, I probably released 2 videos prior to this talking about Big Pharma, or drugs, or corporations, and how they can use our biology against us in order to make money. And no, they didn't get to me. I didn't pick up a hitchhiker from Big Pharma in a black suit and he's got a gun to my head. Part of philosophy is knowing thyself, but also on the aggregate, understanding the human condition. So we can't just not take accountability and blame Big Pharma and blame corporations for beauty standards and all that stuff. Yes, there's a lot of propaganda from the government, and propaganda is just it's just advertisements for the government, things that they're trying to sell. And there's advertisements for on corporate level. Everybody's advertising something, even on an individual level. If you're single, you're trying to advertise yourself, and so everybody's advertising. I'm not going to say that that's a negative thing. If you're not advertising yourself, you may want to reflect and see why that is. But what I want to say is, it's not Big Pharma's fault, and I'm not saying that they're moral or they're right in what they're doing. And it's not big corporations' fault. It's, these are concepts, and there's some of the corporations are systems that have been set in place similar to government, where you have a company, it starts growing. As it grows, the owner hands it over to a board, and the board's trying to make money for the investors. And then everybody that was involved in the original project kind of disappears, and new people come in and out. And then there's really nobody running it anymore. It's just this collective of individuals running it. And there's been these systems put in place that are being changed. And they're not just being changed for profit, like in a free market where it's a signal of how much the people want it. But they also have to understand that there's particular rules being set up by the government, which has a monopoly on force, and they have to get with those rules, and they have a fiduciary right to the investors to make the most money. So if you can get politicians on board and vice versa, you're going to make more money. Or if the government is already pushing free advertising for A, B, or C, or D through propaganda, and you can sell a product that goes with that propaganda, you're getting free advertising, which is going to be more sales, which is going to be more profits, quote unquote profits. It's not really profits nowadays. It's they're printing money, they're moving numbers around on a computer. And if you're part of the private sector, and I say private sector meaning the government, because that's a closed off system. the public system is supposedly we can all enter and we have a say by who we buy from or whatever. So I flip those two. I think it's very Orwellian that we call the government the public sector. They claim to be for the public, but it's a private group making decisions with their best interests. Whereas if you're public facing, like running a business, you actually have to meet a need, which gets me into this next thing. So pharmaceutical companies are just offering people a way out. It's animalistically, we're just trying to get as many resources as we can with as little work as we can. So capitalism at the root is basically just you're eating food and you have a caloric need, and you want to be able to get more calories saved up than the calories that you need. And then those calories become time, and then the game expands over time, and people figure out ways to get more and more resources and put a tag on them of currency or money, which is an IOU for time. I'll do another video on that. But if you, for instance, want to spend your time working towards money or a career or a resource, and you're a man, you can run around bang, 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 and you're not going to get a chance to get pregnant. But if you're a woman and you want to see what it's all about to have a career while having an active sex life and there's no birth control, it's a dangerous thing, because you could put 10 years or 5 years or 2 years into a project, get pregnant, and now you can't put 100% of your energy into that project. So there is a desire to beat this biological setup. So if you're like a naturalist or religious or whatever, you'll say, well, this is how God created man, this is how God created woman, and we're happiest in these situations. And other people on the other side or away from that would say, well, we want to give women the same freedom as men, so the birth control does that. I won't get into all the effects that it has when you try to mess around with stuff like that, but I want to give you that idea, because essentially when a woman is buying birth control, she's buying time to run a, I mean, she could just be promiscuous with it and not use it properly. There's always going to be people, but in the best case scenario, if a woman really did want what they're saying that they want in these feminist groups, to run a business, have the opportunity to try to be CEOs and all this stuff, which I won't get into the studies on how women feel after that, but if that is the case, having birth control, no matter the effects on them, does give them that time, that energy, and that safety blanket that things are not going to be ended by getting pregnant, where they're taking off from working for, at least 9 months, but a lot of resources, time, energy goes into children. So they come out with this pill to sell, and it's tempting. So if you're a woman, you can say, well, I'm just going to be safe, do the best I can, and live in my feminine energy and find a man and all that stuff, but then you never get to see the other side. So they're selling that pill. Similar to, I grew up having some issues mentally, emotionally, later on some depression, and it took me quite a bit of philosophy to get to where I am now. I never took meds. I did journaling, lots of other stuff. I've done alcohol and I've done marijuana, but I've never done anything else. Caffeine, and then anything I got in the drinking water besides before I started filtering my water. So if you're working on a project, say you're a man or a woman, you're working on a project, a business, and you need to work on that business right now, and somebody can give you a pill that cuts your anxiety and cuts your stresses, and they can sell that to you, you might say it's worth it to me. I'll worry about it later on. I'm going to take this pill. I'm going to get rid of my anxiety. I'm going to get rid of my stresses, and I'm going to focus on the task at hand. So this is kind of an argument in a way for determinism versus free will. Meaning, the deterministic aspect of your biology is set in one way, and we have some technologies now that allow you to have some options where you're not beholden to that biology. And you can make different decisions because these people are coming up with medications or drugs that help you out of those situations. So as long as there's that type of need, it's going to be fulfilled by somebody. Now, I think the problem starts happening when they want to make more and more, they need more and more profits, and so they try to figure out a way to pull in people that aren't in these situations with new advertising and such. And I think it can be dangerous because, like, you don't want to be drinking coffee when you're not tired and drinking it all the time, and then when you need it, you can't use it. So you got to be careful that a lot of these things that were sold as temporary crutches to help you through while you do therapy and then you get healthy are now sold as lifestyles. Even to the point where, if you look at the music industry, it went through a change a little while ago. And some of these marketers, so when I grew up with gangster rap, these guys that were in theater school and business marketing went through and ran some searches and found out, like, gangster movies sell well and stuff like that. A lot of them were gangbangers, but a lot of them weren't. And they advertised themselves in a particular way, and they made music in a particular way. It was like badass music. But that music, talking about the gangster lifestyle, from a lot of them, not all of them, was similar to watching a gangster movie. When the next generation came up to make rap things, they would reverse engineer their names based on internet searches. So if you look at, like, Little Xanny, Xanny X, and these people that name themselves after pharmaceutical drugs and rap about pharmaceuticals and doing them and getting high off them, and you listen to the music, it's not that good, and somehow they've been propelled. Well, because the pharmaceutical companies have a lot of sway in the advertising, the SEOs, which are the people that work the advertising on the internet, push certain things to the top of the algorithm. So these individuals, two biggest search engines are Google and YouTube, you can push yourself to the top of a YouTube search. So if you're giving free advertising, so you use the advertising that pharmaceutical companies used, and you put your name as one of those companies, you go to the top of the algorithm and you start making money from music. Then once you're there, if you rap about the pharmaceutical companies and you're giving them free advertising, they're also part of this system, which is going to advertise to help you go. So we often talk about dog eat dog world, but there's a lot more of the world that's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type scenario, where you have these collaborations between individuals that may not normally be hanging out in the same circles. And now with the internet, you don't have to be brushing shoulders with somebody on a golf course to be networking. You can be within the same algorithmic advertising place and hit some certain factors to push those up, including the fact that there's not only are algorithms pushing to get in front of you, but the people that are pushing these algorithms are grouped and they're fighting with each other on the back end. But anyways, this is the philosophical aspect of it now that I've kind of laid some groundwork here. I believe, and I've tested this myself, if you take some self-accountability in the form of getting to know yourself, know thyself, figure out what your triggers are, what your traumas were, what cycles you're repeating, what advertisements and situations you shouldn't be in or be watching because they're going to affect you more, and take some self-control over that, you could free yourself from being beholden to some of these corporate entities. And this is not a new idea. Just a few years ago, this was a talking point and something that a lot of people on the left and the Democratic Party were speaking about. And then, of course, you're advertising you have a fiduciary right to make money for your shareholders. You need to counterbalance that. So if Coke has a commercial, Pepsi needs a commercial, and vice versa. So they got a bunch of Democrats and leftists, or whatever you want to call them, people that normally would be anti-corporate, together, kind of advertise some things. And now we got the right that's no longer loving big pharmaceutical corporations or whatever. And the left is pro-vaccine, pro-get the vax, pro-flu shot, pro-medication, pro-big pharma this, pro-put kids on big pharmaceutical drugs. And again, I'm not attacking big pharma. There's a need. If people have a feeling and they're depressed and there's a lot of work that's done and the people around them are not finding solutions, and then they try this solution and it works or it doesn't work, they're at least trying to find them a solution. I get that. However, deferred gratification, when we talk about this, a lot of people hear deferred gratification and they think money. Like you invest $100 today and you get $1,000 in 2 years or whatever it is. If you're in the crypto or DeFi space, you invest $100 today and you get $400 tomorrow. So, but deferred gratification also works on yourself when you're knowing yourself. So if you get to a situation where you feel like you're self-soothing with sex, for instance, you're, instead of drugs, instead of alcohol, you're self-soothing with sex. Now, drugs and alcohol might be part of that because you need to quiet the voices in your head that tell you not to be promiscuous so that you can go do those activities because you feel bad afterwards, but in the moment you feel wanted, cared for, and you self-soothe. If you can learn to defer that gratification when you have those feelings and emotions, process them, write about them, then you can start making better choices or figuring out where you want to actually go rather than be beholden to your biological. Because if you're constantly beholden to the chemical reactions that happen within us normally, then you're going to be tempted by other people that have drugs and chemicals that you can put in your body to change those things. And if you continuously move them around, you're trying to figure out this thing. It gives you a goal that is impossible to meet. So it's a never-ending goal of perfection of chemical reactions in your body. One, because you're going to build up a tolerance and you need more, and then eventually it'll become ineffective, and vice versa. And this is even naturally. So if you build up a huge tolerance to cortisol, you need to wean off stressful situations and get back to being able to understand it. If you abuse serotonin and dopamine, then you have difficulty feeling happiness and excitement. And if you're a woman on SSRIs, I would look into some of the data and research that's coming back about drug use after the fact. There's been a huge uptick in violent sex over the past couple of years, including choking, erotic asphyxiation during two-partner or multi-partner sexual activity. And I don't know if this is true, but it doesn't happen to men as much. I don't know the exact studies on men, but women that are on SSRIs that then try to experience cocaine highs at the same level as men, self-reported and chemically reported through objective studies, brain activity, much less upticks in excitement. So I don't know how many people are familiar with opiate use and these individuals that strangle themselves while masturbating or whatever. But it's similar with some of these drugs that keep you level all the time, is that you can't find that excitement, and one way to do it is kind of cut the air supply off to your brain to enhance these things. So for me, I like contentness, peacefulness, calmness. Meditation is love to me. And then joy and happiness is something that I see and experience when something exciting happens. And if it happens long enough, it becomes euphoric. And then after the fact, I have a small crash, usually, depending on how I manage it and recognize it, where you counterbalance that and you become sad, not necessarily depressed, but sad. And the reason being is, you know, of course you're sad. If you really liked and enjoyed something, then when it's not there anymore, you're not going to feel good and happy. Plus, you've probably used a lot of dopamine and serotonin, which is now gone, and so your body has to replenish that. And you can do that in some ways through eating and water and supplementation, but it still has to happen. So this is natural. Now, women will probably experience natural highs and lows a little bit more, but once you understand this stuff about yourself, you can kind of, they talk a lot about stoicism with men, but women should work on some stoicism as well. And stoicism is not necessarily like just shut it off and not about emotion. It's understanding your emotions. It is, you can plan for them. As this trip goes on, I knew, or had an inkling that after all the excitement happened, I was going to have some lows, and I did. And so it's been ups and downs, and I plan on the biggest down being when I get back home. And I'm going to counterbalance that with getting back into a routine, lots of drinking, with water, not alcohol. Yeah, I'm going to get drunk and just fucking forget about it. Sorry about the language. No, but lots of drinking of water, supplements, and then exercise to release the endorphins, just healing, recovery. I'm going to do some hot yoga, deep tissue massage, just do some self-care. And recognizing your biology like that gives you so much more power when you can set up scenarios in which you're in control and you're not beholden to some other individual that's selling you promises. And mainly being like thinking about this, going through this, resting, having to drink the water, setting the schedule, going to hot yoga, doing the deep tissue massage, all that stuff takes time and energy, and it's probably going to be, you know, a week of getting rebalanced when I get back home. Yeah, you could take a pill and maybe it would only take you like a day and you would feel down again. So that's what they're doing. They're selling you a 1 day to 1 week ratio, whatever the ratio is. So all in all, I don't want to make a moral argument, but just in general, we don't have to purchase or move or get these things, with the exception of, and I don't really want to get into this too much, but with the current healthcare system, which is highly government controlled and has been for a long time, these techniques of dealing with certain things have been onboarded to pharmaceutical answers, and it's worked into the business model. So the fees that you pay for insurance is based on a lot of the quick fix drugs things. So there is some people that are also on medications that there isn't another solution for them within the current system. And for those people, I just hope you know this is not a personal attack on you, but there's still a way out. Your deferred gratification just might be a long, long way out. And I get it. If you're looking on a decade of self-work and repair and just taking care of yourself and studying and journaling and going on YouTube, it seems like a daunting task. And then when you get on the other side, you're like, well, I don't even know if this works. So if that's you, or if you're just, going through some stuff, what I suggest, and this isn't something radical or whatever, choose something you want to do that's new. Create a new habit in your life. Create a new technique, a new strategy, something you do, like reflecting for 10 minutes before bed or whatever. Do that thing for a week, or a day, or 2 days, or a month, whatever you choose. This is your life. After you do that, take time to reflect. If your life has gotten better after you did that technique, then I would suggest continuing that technique. If your life has gotten worse after that, I would consider refraining from that technique. But if you continuously give yourself little goals, techniques, and changes in your life of self-improvement, and you set a date or a time limit for you to do it, and I would pick a week or more, because you need for it to be ingrained. If your life gets better, keep doing it, and then add something to it. And you'll look up one day, and the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. You'll be in a lot better position. And then, once you stop making those little decisions, and you run out of them, you'll be able to you'll have bigger decisions left over to change. And then you'll be so good at it, you'll be able to make these big changes. Try them for a little while. If they work, continue. If they didn't work, change them, and so on and so forth. So, hey, honestly, I don't make these videos. I didn't make this video. I'm not even sure if I'm going to show it to hurt anybody. I want you to spark your mind and start thinking again. There's so much data, information that people go out that they never. It's like this person's right, that person's right. Did you hear this person? You go to this person's lecture. I went to school and they told me this one. Sit with yourself. Know thyself. Sit with yourself. Mull over this information. Free from judgment from the outside world. Maybe my voice slips into your head a little bit and sparks some ideas. And think if there's anything that you've been doing that was kind of programmed into you that you don't want to do anymore. And if it is, stop doing it, and then check to see if your life is getting better and you're not hurting other people. And if you're not, maybe you want to continue doing that. So, okay, don't cancel me, big government and big pharma. I don't think you're necessarily systematically evil. I just think that there's these systems that have been built on foundations of sand, and we really need to build our systems on first principles and morals. So, okay, if you made it this far, I love you guys. Bye.